My daughter rolled her eyes and said, "You don't pay for anything." So I let the statement speak. When the accounts froze that afternoon, she called me crying. "Hi, I'm Patricia, though most people call me Patty. I'm 72 years old and I've lived in Ohio my whole life. Before we get into this, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your state or country in the comments. It helps me know I'm not alone in this. Now let me tell you how I learned that sometimes the people who take you for granted need to learn what life looks like without you. It started on a Tuesday morning in March. I was sitting at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd served my daughter Rachel breakfast for 18 years, helped her with homework, listened to her teenage heartbreaks. The morning sun was coming through the lace curtains I'd made myself, and I was looking at my phone, scrolling through my bank app. Rachel had stopped by the night before. She's 34 now, works in marketing for some tech company downtown, always dressed in those sharp blazers and heels that click against hardwood floors. She'd come over for dinner, pot roast, her favorite since she was 6 years old. "Mom, this house is so outdated," she'd said, waving her fork around my dining room. "You really should renovate. Get rid of all this old lady stuff." Old lady stuff. The antique hutch that had been my grandmother's. The china cabinet holding dishes from my wedding 45 years ago. The family photos in frames I'd carefully selected and arranged. I'd smiled, swallowed the hurt. "Maybe someday, sweetheart." Then came the real reason for her visit. "So, Mom, Brad and I are thinking about Cancun for our anniversary. The resort is only $3,000 per person for the week. I was thinking you could help us out, as an anniversary gift." Brad. Her husband of 6 years. Nice enough guy, works in finance, always talking about investments and portfolios. They both made good money, really good money. Combined, they pulled in close to $200,000 a year. "That's expensive, Rachel," I'd said carefully. She'd sighed, that particular sigh children save for parents they think are being difficult. "Mom, you don't understand. We work so hard. We deserve nice things. Besides, it's not like you have expenses. Your house is paid off and you get Social Security." I'd felt something crack inside me then, but I just smiled and said I'd think about it. The next morning, sitting at my table, I thought about it. I thought about a lot of things. I opened my banking app and started looking at the account I'd set up for Rachel when she turned 25. It was supposed to be for emergencies. I was listed as the primary account holder, but I'd given her full access. Over the years, I'd deposited money here and there, birthday gifts, Christmas money, helping her build a safety net. I looked at the transaction history, and that's when my blood ran cold. The transactions went back months, no years. Scrolling through that history was like watching my daughter's entire life of entitlement play out in dollar signs. Designer handbags, $1,500 at Louis Vuitton, $2,200 at Gucci, spa days, wine bars, high-end restaurants 3-4 times a week, a $600 charge at some boutique I'd never heard of, another $800 at Nordstrom. My hands started shaking. This wasn't emergency money. This was Rachel's personal ATM, money I'd put in there from my own modest savings, from the life insurance policy I'd cashed in after my husband Frank died 8 years ago, from selling off little things I didn't need anymore. I'd been living on $1,200 a month in Social Security. I clipped coupons. I bought generic brands. I wore the same winter coat I'd had for 15 years because it still worked fine. I'd canceled my cable to save money, just kept basic internet so I could video chat with my sister in Florida. And my daughter had been spending thousands of my dollars on luxury items. The account had started with $43,000. Now it had $9,000 left, $34,000. Gone. I sat there for 20 minutes, just staring at that screen. The grandfather clock in the hallway, Frank's grandfather clock, ticked away the silence. Outside, Mrs. Henderson was walking her little terrier like she did every morning at 9. Everything felt normal, but nothing was normal. I called Rachel. She answered on the third ring, sounding distracted. "Hey, Mom, I'm about to go into a meeting. We need to talk about the account," I said. My voice sounded strange, even to me. Flat. Cold. "What account?" The emergency account. The one I set up for you. A pause. Oh, yeah, what about it? You've spent $34,000, Rachel. Another pause, longer this time. Then, Mom, I can explain. I'm listening. Look, those weren't frivolous purchases. I needed those things for work. You have to look professional in my industry. And Brad and I, we have expenses you don't understand. Our mortgage, our car payments. Your mortgage on a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs? Your car payments on a BMW and a Mercedes? Mom, you're being judgmental. We work hard for our lifestyle. Something in me snapped. Maybe it was the casual way she said it. Maybe it was remembering how I'd eaten ramen noodles for a week last month to afford her birthday present. Maybe it was the years of feeling like I was never quite enough, never quite understanding her modern life. I don't pay for anything? I said quietly. What? Yesterday you said I don't have expenses, that I don't pay for anything. Rachel sighed. Mom, I didn't mean it like that. You're being oversensitive. Look, I really do have this meeting. Have your meeting, I said. We'll talk later. I hung up before she could respond. Then I sat at that kitchen table, and I made a decision that would change everything. I spent the next hour on the phone with my bank. Sarah, the customer service representative, was patient as I explained what I needed to do. Mrs. Patterson, just to confirm, you want to freeze the account and remove the secondary user's access? That's correct. And you understand that Ms. Rachel Thompson will no longer be able to make any withdrawals or transfers? I understand perfectly. There was a pause. Sarah had that kind voice that made me think she'd heard stories like mine before. I'll process this right away. The freeze will be in effect within the hour. Is there anything else I can help you with today? Actually, yes. I'd like to transfer the remaining funds to a new account, one that only I have access to. I can absolutely help you with that. 30 minutes later, it was done. The emergency account was frozen. The $9,000 that remained was now in a new account, safe, under my control alone. I made a cup of tea, the good stuff, not the generic bags, and sat down to wait. The call came at 2:15 in the afternoon. Mom! Rachel's voice was high, panicked. What did you do? My card was just declined. I'm standing in the middle of Target and my card won't work. I froze the account, I said calmly, stirring honey into my tea. You what? Mom, are you insane? I have groceries in my cart. This is humiliating. Use your own card, Rachel. You and Brad make a combined $200,000 a year. You can afford groceries. That's not the point. You can't freeze my account. It's not your account. It's my account that I gave you access to. And now I've removed that access. I could hear her breathing, fast and angry. This is about yesterday, isn't it? About what I said? Mom, I apologized. No, you didn't. You told me I was being oversensitive. Because you were. God, you're so dramatic. This is financial abuse. You're punishing me. I set down my teacup. Rachel, I looked at the statements. Every single transaction. Did you know that in the last 3 years you've spent $34,000 from that account? Silence. $34,000, Rachel, on handbags, restaurants, spa days. That money was from your father's life insurance, from savings I put aside by living on almost nothing. While you were buying $1,500 purses, I was eating crackers for lunch to save money. I didn't know it was that much, she said, her voice smaller now, because you never looked. You never asked. You just took. Mom, please. I need access to that account. Brad and I have bills. Then pay them with your salary. You don't understand. We have obligations. The house payment is due next week, and we put it on the account because Brad's bonus got delayed. I closed my eyes. You used my money for your mortgage payment. It was just going to be temporary, just until... I hung up. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from shock. It was from rage. For the next 2 days, Rachel called 17 times. I didn't answer. She sent text messages that started with apologies and ended with accusations. I didn't respond. On Thursday evening, she showed up at my door. I saw her through the window getting out of her Mercedes, wearing a camel-colored coat that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She looked upset, her makeup smudged like she'd been crying. Part of me wanted to let her stand there. But I'm still her mother, even when she breaks my heart. I opened the door. "Mom." Her voice cracked. "Please, we need to talk." I stepped aside and let her in. She walked into the living room, the same room where I'd rocked her to sleep as a baby, where she'd opened Christmas presents, where she'd gotten ready for prom in that blue dress. She sat on the couch, and I sat across from her in Frank's old recliner. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm really, truly sorry." "For what, specifically?" She blinked. For what?" I said. "For taking advantage. For not appreciating you. Do you know why I froze the account, Rachel? Because I hurt your feelings." "No?" I leaned forward. "I froze it because you needed to learn what your life actually costs. You've been living beyond your means and using my money as a safety net. That ends now." Her face flushed. "We're not living beyond our means. We have good jobs. Then why did you need my money for your mortgage?" She opened her mouth, closed it, looked away. "You want to know what I pay for?" I continued. "I pay $1,200 in property tax every year on this house. I pay for utilities, insurance, groceries, my medications. Last month, my water heater broke. It cost $800 to replace. I had to pull from my emergency savings because I couldn't ask you for help. You were too busy spending my money on handbags. Mom, I'm not finished. When your father died, I got $150,000 from his life insurance. Do you know where most of it went? Your college loans. We paid them off so you could start your career debt-free, $40,000. Then your wedding, $28,000. Then the account I set up for you, which you drained buying things you don't need." Tears were running down her face now. "I didn't realize." "No, you didn't, because you never had to think about it. Money just appeared when you needed it, and you assumed it always would." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "What do you want me to do? I want you to pay your own bills. I want you to budget. I want you to understand that just because you can buy something doesn't mean you should. And the account stays frozen. The money that's left is mine. I earned it, I saved it, and I'm going to keep it for my own emergencies." She stood up abruptly. "So that's it? You're just cutting me off? What kind of mother does that?" "The kind who's tired of being taken for granted." Rachel stared at me like I'd slapped her. "You're being cruel." "No, sweetheart. I'm being a parent, something I should have done a long time ago." She grabbed her purse, one of those designer bags I now knew cost more than my monthly income. "Brad was right. He said you'd do something like this. He said you were controlling." That stung. "Brad said that?" "He sees how you are, always acting like you're some kind of martyr. Poor Patty, living on her little social security check. Well, maybe if you'd actually built a career instead of being a housewife, you'd have more money." The words hung in the air like poison. I stood up slowly. My knees hurt, arthritis that I couldn't always afford the good medication for, but I stood up straight and looked my daughter in the eye. "Get out of my house. Mom, get out." She left. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the picture frames on the wall. I sat back down in Frank's chair and cried for the first time since the funeral. Not quiet tears, but the kind of sobbing that comes from somewhere deep and broken, because that's what this was. Broken. My relationship with my daughter, the little girl I'd nursed through chicken pox and held during thunderstorms and cheered for at every school play, she was gone. In her place was this stranger who thought I'd wasted my life. I'd been a housewife. I'd raised Rachel and her brother Tommy while Frank worked construction. We'd made that choice together, Frank and I, because we wanted our kids to have a parent home. We'd sacrificed so much. I'd gone without new clothes, without vacations, without the things other women had, because my children came first, and now my daughter thought I was nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle, thinking about everything. Around 3 in the morning, I got up and went to Frank's office. I'd kept it mostly the same since he died, dust covers over his desk and filing cabinet, but his papers were still organized the way he'd left them. I pulled out our old financial records, tax returns, mortgage statements, receipts I'd saved for decades, because Frank had been meticulous about record keeping, and I started making a list. Every dollar we'd spent on Rachel, every sacrifice, every cost. The sun was coming up when I finished. My back ached from sitting at the desk, and my eyes burned from reading old papers in dim light. But I had it. Every single expense, documented and totaled. College, $43,000 in loan payoffs plus $32,000 in tuition and expenses we'd paid directly. Wedding, $28,000. Her first car, $8,000. Down payment help for her first apartment, $6,000. The emergency account deposits, $43,000. Smaller things over the years, birthdays, Christmas, help with bills when she was starting out, furniture, clothes, the laptop for graduate school. The total came to $187,000. $187,000. I sat back and looked at that number, and I knew exactly what I was going to do. Friday morning, I called my lawyer. Well, not my lawyer, Frank's lawyer. Gerald Mitchell had handled our wills and estate planning. He was semi-retired now, but when I called, he remembered me. Patty Patterson, it's been years. How are you holding up? I need help, Gerald. It's about Rachel. We met at his office that afternoon. It was one of those old downtown buildings with creaky floors and windows that overlooked Main Street. Gerald's office smelled like leather and old books. I told him everything, showed him my documentation, the account statements, the list of expenses. He listened without interrupting, his fingers steepled under his chin, and when I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. What do you want to do, Patty? I want her to understand, really understand, what she's taken, what she's thrown away. Gerald nodded slowly. I can draft a formal accounting, a detailed breakdown of every financial contribution you and Frank made to her life. It won't have legal weight for recovery. These were gifts, not loans, but it will be official, documented. That's what I want. And then what? I thought about this all night into the morning through the drive to his office. And then I want to revise my will. He raised an eyebrow. Go on. Tommy lives in Seattle. He's a teacher, married with 2 kids. He calls me every Sunday. He never asks for money. When I offered to help with my grandson's braces, he said no, they'd handle it. That's my son. Gerald was already pulling out a legal pad. Rachel gets nothing, I continued. Everything goes to Tommy, the house, my savings, whatever's left. If she calls this controlling, if she thinks I wasted my life, then she doesn't deserve what that life built. Patty, I need to ask, are you sure? This is permanent. I'm 72 years old, Gerald. I've never been more sure of anything. He drafted the documents. I read every word, signed every page. When I left his office 2 hours later, I felt lighter than I had in years. That evening, Rachel called again. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave a message. Saturday, she texted, "Mom, please, can we just talk? I miss you." I stared at that message for a long time, wondered if she really meant it or if she just missed my bank account. I didn't respond. Sunday came. Tommy called right on schedule at 6 p.m., like he did every week. "Hey, Ma, how's Ohio treating you?" Just hearing his voice made me smile. "Oh, you know, same old, same old. How are my grandbabies?" Driving us crazy. Emma wants a puppy, Jake wants a skateboard, Sarah and I want 5 minutes of peace. We talked for an hour. About his students, about Sarah's promotion at work, about Emma's school play and Jake's baseball team. Normal things, family things. He told me he loved me before we hung up. He always did. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Monday morning, I mailed Rachel 2 things, a copy of the financial accounting Gerald had prepared and a letter. The letter wasn't long. I'd rewritten it a dozen times, trying to find the right words. Dear Rachel, Enclosed is a detailed accounting of every dollar your father and I invested in your life. This isn't a bill. You don't owe me money. But you do owe me recognition. You said I don't pay for anything. You said I wasted my life as a housewife. You said I'm controlling. I was a mother. I chose to be a mother. I gave up my dreams of finishing college to raise you and your brother. I wore secondhand clothes so you could have new school supplies. I went without so you wouldn't have to. Your father worked himself into an early grave providing for our family. Construction work destroyed his knees, his back, his hands. He died at 64, tired and worn out, but proud that his children had opportunities he never did. We paid for your education, your wedding, your emergencies. We did it with love, never expecting payback, only hoping you'd appreciate it. But you didn't. You took and never once said thank you. The account is closed. I will not be giving you money anymore. Not for vacations, not for mortgages, not for anything. You make more in 1 year than your father and I, combined made in 5. You don't need my help. You need to learn responsibility. I love you. I will always love you. But I won't let you disrespect me anymore. Mom, I mailed it on Monday. By Wednesday, she'd received it. The call came at 10 in the morning. I was watering my African violets in the kitchen window when my phone rang. Mom. Her voice was strange. Tight. I got your letter. And the accounting? Yes. I looked at all of it. I waited. I didn't know it was that much. I really didn't. I never added it all up. No one forced me to give you those things, Rachel, but no one forced you to be ungrateful either. She was crying now. I could hear it in her breathing. I said horrible things to you about Dad, about your life. I was so angry and I lashed out. You meant them though, didn't you? A long pause. I don't know. Maybe I did in that moment. I was embarrassed. Standing in Target with a declined card, I felt like a child being punished. Brad has been in my ear for years saying you're too involved, that we need boundaries, and I let him make me see you differently. Brad didn't make you do anything. You chose to listen. I know that now. Mom, can I come over? Please, I need to see you. I looked around my kitchen, at the table where we'd eaten thousands of meals, at the photos on the refrigerator, at the life I'd built. Not yet, I said softly. I need time, Rachel. How much time? I don't know. Mom, please don't shut me out. I can't lose you. You should have thought about that before you lost respect for me. I ended the call. My hands were steady this time. The next few weeks were quiet. Rachel didn't call, didn't text. I wondered if she'd given up or if she was finally thinking about what I'd said. Tommy called on his usual Sunday. I told him everything, the account, the letter, all of it. He was quiet for a long time after I finished. Ma, I'm sorry you're going through this. You didn't know? About Rachel using your money? No, I knew she could be thoughtless sometimes, but not like that. I changed my will, Tommy. You should know that. You didn't have to do that for me. I didn't do it for you. I did it because you earned it. You respect me. You appreciate what your father and I built. Rachel sees it all as something she was entitled to. Have you heard from her at all? No. Radio silence. Give her time. Maybe she's processing. Maybe. But I wasn't sure I believed that. Then 3 weeks after I mailed the letter, something changed. I was at the grocery store doing my weekly shopping with my carefully organized coupons when I saw Brad, Rachel's husband. He was alone, standing in the cereal aisle staring at prices like they were written in a foreign language. He saw me and went pale. Patty, hi. Brad. He shifted his weight, uncomfortable. How have you been? Fine, you? Good, yeah, good. He clearly wasn't good. He looked tired, stressed. Listen, I wanted to apologize for what Rachel said to you, the stuff about your life, about Frank. That wasn't okay. Did you tell her to say those things? His jaw tightened. I may have expressed frustrations about boundaries, but I never told her to disrespect you like that. But you agreed with her. He looked away. I thought you were too involved in our finances. I thought Rachel relied on you too much. I wanted us to be independent. You are independent, Brad. You both make excellent money. Yeah, well, he laughed, but it was bitter. Turns out we were living beyond our means, way beyond. When you cut off the account, we had to actually look at our budget. We're $30,000 in credit card debt. Our mortgage is higher than we can really afford. The car payments alone are killing us. I didn't say anything, just stood there with my cart full of generic brands and sale items. We're selling the Mercedes, he continued, getting something used. We canceled our gym memberships, our streaming services, our wine club. Rachel is devastated. She should be devastated about losing her mother, not her luxuries. He nodded slowly. You're right. She knows that now. She's been different since your letter. She reads it every night. That doesn't change what she said. No, it doesn't. But maybe... He trailed off, then started again. She wants to make it right. She's just scared you won't let her. I need to see change, Brad. Real change. Not just panic because the money stopped. I understand. He walked away and I finished my shopping, but his words stayed with me. She reads it every night. A week later, on a Saturday afternoon, Rachel showed up at my door again. This time, she wasn't wearing designer clothes, jeans, a simple sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, no makeup except a little mascara. She looked younger, more like the daughter I remembered. She was holding a notebook. Mom, can I please come in? I let her in. We sat in the same spots as before, her on the couch, me in Frank's chair. She opened the notebook. Inside were pages and pages of handwriting, numbers, lists, notes. This is our budget, she said quietly. Brad and I sat down and actually looked at everything. What we make, what we spend, where it all goes. We've been living like we made twice what we actually do. The account you gave me access to, we were using it to fill in the gaps, to maintain a lifestyle we couldn't afford. I didn't speak, just listened. We're selling the Mercedes. Already have a buyer. We're getting a used Honda instead. We canceled everything we don't absolutely need. We're meal planning using coupons, shopping sales. Things you tried to teach me years ago that I thought were beneath me. She looked up and her eyes were red-rimmed. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. Not because the money stopped. I mean, yes, that was a wake-up call, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I read your letter every single night and I realized something. What's that? I became someone I don't like. Someone who measures people by what they can give me instead of who they are. Someone who looks down on sacrifices I don't understand. You gave up everything for me and Tommy, and I repaid you by treating you like an ATM and an outdated embarrassment. Tears were rolling down her face now. Dad died working to give us a better life. You lived on nothing to make sure we had everything. And I threw it in your face because I was too selfish and stupid to see what I had. She pulled something else from the notebook. A check. This is $5,000. It's from selling my handbag collection. I had 14 designer bags, Mom. 14. Each one cost over $1,000. I sold them all. This money is yours. I know it doesn't come close to what I took, but it's a start. She set the check on the coffee table between us. I don't want your money back, Rachel. I know, but I need to give it anyway. I need to start making things right. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw something I hadn't seen in years. Humility, understanding, growth. If you've been following this story and you want to see how people like Rachel finally learn their lessons, please hit that subscribe button. Your support means everything to me. The money isn't what matters, I said softly. What matters is whether you mean this, whether this is real change or just panic. It's real, Mom. I promise you it's real. Then prove it. How? Rachel asked. How do I prove it to you? I thought about that. About what I really needed from her. Time, I said finally. Show me over time that you've changed. Not with grand gestures or checks. Show me by how you live your life, by the choices you make, by whether you call me because you want to talk to me, not because you need something." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I can do that." "And therapy. You and Brad need to see someone about your relationship with money, about why you felt the need to live beyond your means. We already started, 2 sessions in." That surprised me. "Really?" "Really. Our first assignment was to write down what we value most. I wrote family. Then the therapist asked me if my spending reflected that value. It didn't. At all." She stood up, leaving the check on the table. "I'm not asking you to forgive me today. I'm not asking you to change your will back or give me access to anything. I'm just asking for a chance to be your daughter again. The real kind, not the kind who only shows up when she wants something." I stood too, my knees protesting. "That's all I've ever wanted, Rachel." She moved toward me hesitantly, and I opened my arms. She fell into them like she was 12 years old again, crying against my shoulder. "I love you, Mom. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "I love you too, sweetheart." We stood there for a long time. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows, catching dust motes in the air, and for the first time in months, my house felt like home again. Rachel started coming over for dinner once a week. Just dinner. Just talking. She helped me with things around the house, fixed a leaky faucet, cleaned out the gutters, things Brad knew how to do. She brought groceries sometimes, the generic brands I used, and we'd cook together. She never asked about the account, never brought up money. 3 months later, she and Brad sold their house and bought a smaller one, downsized significantly. She told me they'd paid off their credit cards and were building an actual emergency fund. 6 months after that, on what would have been Frank's 72nd birthday, Rachel brought me a gift. It was a photo album. Inside were pictures I'd never seen, photos she'd taken over the years. Me and Frank at her college graduation, me helping her get ready on her wedding day, me holding her when she was hours old. On the first page, she'd written, "To the woman who gave me everything and asked for nothing but respect. I'm sorry it took me so long to see you. I love you, Mom." I cried reading it. Good tears this time. Did I change my will back? Not yet. Maybe someday. Maybe when I'm sure the change is permanent. But I got my daughter back. The real one. The one who remembers where she came from and values the people who got her there. And that, more than any amount of money, is worth everything.